crazy about this clip is that right-wingers have been sharing it out and they think Rand looks good and that he destroyed Fauci in the clip.
As you are aware, it is a crime to lie to Congress. Section 100
None of us are high enough for this shit.
creates a felony and a 5-year penalty for lying to Congress. On your last trip to our committee on May 11th, you stated that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And yet, gain-of-function research was done entirely in the Wuhan Institute by Dr. Shi and was funded by the NIH. I'd like to ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the Wuhan virology paper entitled Discovery of a Rich Gene Pool of Bat SARS-Related Coronaviruses. Please deliver a copy of the journal article to Dr. Fauci. In this paper, Dr. Shi credits the NIH and lists the
Did I do some illegal lobbying? No, I didn't. But apparently the chairman of Trump's inaugural committee did. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit.
actual number of the grant that she was given by the NIH. In this paper, she took 2 bat coronavirus genes, spike genes, and combined them with a SARS-related backbone to create new viruses that are not found in nature. These lab-created viruses were then shown to replicate in humans. These experiments combine genetic information from different coronaviruses that infect animals but not humans to create novel artificial viruses able to infect human cells. Viruses.
No, I want to be clear when they get into the lab leak theory here in just a second, that none of the gene sequencing matches any of the sequencing in the lab that we know of.
Nature only infect animals were manipulated in the Wuhan lab to gain the function of infecting humans. This research fits the definition of the research that the NIH said was subject to the pause in 2014 to 2017, a pause in funding on gain of function. But the NIH
Jet fuel doesn't melt Wuhan.
defines it away, and it never came under any scrutiny. Dr. Richard E. Bright, a molecular biologist from Rutgers, described this research in Wuhan as...
Now, he's got some visual aids back here. I kind of wish we could see them.
The Wuhan lab used NIH funding to construct novel chimeric SARS-related coronaviruses able to infect human cells and laboratory animals. This is high-risk research that creates new potential pandemic pathogens that exist only in the lab, not in nature. This research matches, these are Dr. E. Bright's words, this research matches, indeed epitomizes, the definition of gain-of-function research, done entirely in Wuhan, for which there was supposed to be a federal pause. Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Your microphone.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying
The fucking right-wingers love to do this fucking semantics
You do
game.
not know what you are talking about, quite frankly, and I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about.
It's true.
One person.
Let's read from the
Madam
NIH
Chair, can I
definition of
answer the
gain of
question?
function. This is your definition that you guys wrote. It says that scientific research...
I wish it was a crime for a member of Congress to get up there and lie.
that increases the transmissibility among mammals is gain of function. They took animal viruses that only occur in animals and they increased their transmissibility to humans. how you can say that is not gain of function.
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure.
As I understand it, and I don't fucking know enough about this shit to make an assessment, neither does anybody fucking else, including Rand Paul. That's why we need to defer to actual people that know what they're fucking talking about. As I understand it, it was a predictability thing. It had nothing to do with actually creating viruses. That they were just like creating models that they would be able to use. That there was no live viruses, but I don't fucking know. I don't know anything about this shit.
Responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
And let's let Dr. Fauci.
I have to, well, now you're getting into something. If the point that you are making is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from
Fauci fired up
to Wuhan created SARS-CoV-2, that's where you are getting. Let me finish.
We don't know.
Well,
we don't
wait
know
a minute.
If it did come from the lab, but all the evidence is pointing that it came from the lab.
Yeah, notice how he said, we don't know, but all the evidence points that it came from the lab. No. The evidence doesn't point that it came from the lab. Because it seems to me, and like, apparently the argument is that the two people that are the foremost experts in this shit have been tainted by grants or some shit. That's the right-wing argument. Those two people, both of them, when they first heard about COVID, when they heard the first stories coming from Wuhan, the Chinese scientist and the World Health Organization scientist, the Bat Lady and the Doziak guy, they both went, oh my God, this is a lab leak. Looked at the evidence and go, shwoo, not a lab leak. So, I mean, that tells me that they are pretty well confident that it wasn't. And I think that the fact that they both initially said, oh my God, this was a lab leak, kind of goes against the idea that they were trying to cover it up. It seems to go against logic. Because Doziak had the fucking letter, the email to Fauci that came out, where he was like, you need to look at this as if it was a lab leak. But then he later changed his position after he looked at the evidence and evaluated it. That tells me that, like, he is an honest actor in this. I have no reason to believe he's not, but the right-wing argument is like, oh, they're paid off with grant money, which it's hilarious to me. They can tell me that grant money corrupts research in the public sphere, but they never bring up the profit motive in the free market.
There will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including yourself.
I totally
This committee will allow the witness to respond.
I totally resent the lie that you are now propagating, Senator, because if you look at the viruses that were used in the experiments, that were given in the annual reports, that were published in the literature, it is molecularly impossible.
No one's saying those viruses caused it.
It
no
is
one is
molecularly.
those viruses caused the pandemic. What we're alleging is that gain-of-function research was going on in that lab, and NIH funded it.
That is
you can't
not.
get away from it. It meets your definition.
But you were trying to draw other conclusions from that, Paul, you asshole.
And you are obfuscating the truth.
I'm not obfuscating the truth.
Senator
You are the
Paul's
one.
time is expired, but I will allow the witness to.
Let me just finish. I want everyone to understand that if you look at those viruses, and that's judged by qualified virologists and evolutionary biologists.
Not a fucking ophthalmologist or optometrist or whatever the fuck Rand Paul is.
Those viruses are molecularly impossible
No one's
to
saying
result
they are. No
in
one's saying those viruses
SARS-CoV-2.
caused the pandemic.
Senator Paul,
We're saying they are gain-of-function viruses because they were
they're not.
animal viruses that became more transmissible in human, and you funded it.
And
Don't
you
admit the truth.
and you
Senator
implying
Paul, your time has expired, and I will allow witnesses who come before this committee to respond. Dr.
and you are implying that what we did was responsible for the deaths of individuals.
That's exactly what he was doing.
Totally resent
could
that.
have
And
been.
if
And it
anybody
could
is
have been.
lying here, Senator, it is you.
Facts. And the right-wing lies all throughout this pandemic have resulted in people not wanting to get the vaccine for any fucking reason. There's nothing that's going to convince them. I think we've hit the threshold. We've hit where we're the number of people that are vaccinated now are the number of people that are going to be vaccinated. So this is an Axios piece from today. Strategies to reach the unvaccinated. Percentage of unvaccinated people responding to, if each of the following were to happen, how likely, if at all, would you be to get the COVID-19 vaccine? Could you get the vaccine at your doctor's office? Given paid time off? Celebrity or public figure endorsed the vaccine? The only one that would have mattered was Trump, and that time is gone. If he had come out in January and said, hey, me and Melania, we got the vaccine. Go get your vaccine. Geraldo and Sean Hannity coming out now isn't going to help anything. I'll give Geraldo credit. All through the pandemic, he has been a voice of reason on Fox. Most Americans who still aren't vaccinated say nothing. Not their own doctor administering it, a favorite celebrity's endorsement, or even paid time off is likely to make them get the shot, according to the latest installment of the Axios Ipsos Coronavirus Index. The findings are more sobering evidence of just how tough it may be to reach herd immunity in the U.S., but they also offer a roadmap for trying, the public health equivalent of, so you're telling me there's a chance. The part of the population that are nudgeable and another part that are unbudgeable. This is according to Cliff Young, president of Ipsos USA Public Affairs. I think I put an A in there. The U.S. Public Affairs. From a public health standpoint, they've got to figure out how you nudge the nudgeable. 30% of U.S. adults in our national survey said they haven't yet gotten the COVID-19 vaccine. Half of them had a hard no, saying they're not at all likely to take it. We asked the unvaccinated about how likely they'd be to take it in a number of scenarios. The best prospect was a scenario in which they could get the vaccine at their regular doctor's office, but even then, 55% said they'd remain not at all likely, and only 7% said they'd be very likely to do it. Overall, Americans' concerns are rising for activities like seeing family and friends outside the home, going to the grocery store, or sports events, or getting on a plane. Those concerns had subsided as vaccines became widely available, but the numbers are creeping back up after recent reports of rising infection rates and the dangers of the Delta variant. But this trend is being driven by the vaccinated. The unvaccinated are no more concerned than they were before, which wasn't much. Contrast to unvaccinated Americans' resistance to getting a shot at all, most vaccinated Americans said they'd go a step farther by getting a booster shot under a wide variety of hypothetical conditions. Well, I mean, I went into getting my vaccine with figuring like about a year I'm going to have another one. I'm assuming it's going to be a yearly thing that we're going to have to be vaccinated for. Now, the question is it going to be more than a yearly thing? Is it going to have to be like a 6-month shot that we get? That's what we don't know. I mean, misinformation is one of the reasons why alarming number of Americans think vaccines contain microchips to control people. I mean, we ain't even got that technology yet. We're on the cusp of it. We're close in some instances, but we do not have that technology yet. If we did, they wouldn't be using it to microchip you, dumb fuck. 1/5 of polled adults believe it is definitely true or probably true that COVID-19 vaccinations contain government-issued microchips. According to a new survey, the survey was conducted by The Economist YouGov and published this week. It asked about 1,500 Americans aged 18 and over if the U.S. government is using the COVID-19 vaccine to microchip the population. 5% of respondents said the statement was definitely true, while 15% said the statement was probably true. When broken down along party lines, the survey found that 32% of Republicans said it was definitely or probably true, while 14% of Democrats said it is definitely or probably true. Those without college degrees were also more likely to believe the microchip conspiracy compared to those who have one. Now, you might have seen a shift in the coverage on the news here in the U.S. regarding mandates and lockdowns. There's been a hard backlash from right-wing media about the possibility of fresh mandates. When we don't even see any indication that that's going to be a thing really until maybe this week. We're starting to see officials meet. Now, LA County did reinstitute a mask mandate, apparently.